Karen's laugh was a cackle that could curdle milk, echoing across my quiet cul-de-sac like a siren of self-righteous fury. She stood on my lawn, paint roller in hand, as if she owned the very grass beneath her feet. The woman was a walking caricature of entitlement, her floral muumuu straining against her frame, her sneer daring anyone to challenge her. She was the HOA president, self-appointed queen of Willow Creek, and today, she decided my house's beige exterior was a personal affront to her vision of suburban perfection. Without a word to me, she and her sister, Barb, her loyal, equally insufferable sidekick, had shown up with cans of neon pink paint and started redecorating my home. I'd come back from a grueling day at the community center, where I volunteered teaching kids to read, to find my house looking like a flamingo had exploded on it. My jaw dropped as I pulled into the driveway, tires crunching on gravel. Karen was mid-stroke, slathering pink over my front door, while Barb, wiry and sour-faced, stood guard with a clipboard, muttering about curb appeal standards. My home, my sanctuary, was being violated, and these two were acting like they were doing me a favor. "Karen," I shouted, slamming my car door. "What the hell are you doing to my house?" She turned, her jowls quivering with indignation, and waved her paint roller like a scepter. "Oh, David, don't be so dramatic. This drab beige was dragging down property values. We're saving the neighborhood." Barb nodded, her pinched lips curling into a smirk, as if I should be grateful for their unsolicited artistry. "Saving? You're vandalizing my property." I stepped closer, my heart pounding. I'd spent years saving for this house, a modest two-bedroom I'd made my own after my divorce. Every wall, every shingle, was mine earned through sweat and late nights. And now, these sisters, who'd never worked an honest day in their lives, were defacing it. Karen scoffed, her chins wobbling. "Vandalizing? Please. The HOA bylaws clearly state that exteriors must conform to community standards. Beige is not a personality, David." She turned back to the wall, dipping her roller in a can of paint so bright it could blind a satellite. I clenched my fists, trying to keep my voice steady. "You didn't ask me. You didn't send a notice. This is my house, not your canvas." Barb chimed in, her voice nasal and grating. "We sent an email to the HOA listserv. If you'd bothered to read it, you'd know we voted on this last week." She flipped through her clipboard, as if her paperwork made their actions legal. I laughed, bitter and sharp. "Voted? I wasn't at any meeting. You can't just paint someone's house because you feel like it." I pulled out my phone, hands shaking, and started recording. Karen's eyes narrowed, but she didn't stop. If anything, she painted faster, splattering pink across my window frames. The neighbors started to gather. Mrs. Nguyen, who lived across the street, stood on her porch, arms crossed, her face a mix of amusement and disgust. Jake, the single dad next door, walked over, his toddler on his hip, staring at the spectacle. "They did what?" he muttered, shaking his head. The air was thick with tension, the kind that comes when a community's patience with a tyrant finally snaps. Karen, oblivious or uncaring, kept preaching. "This neighborhood needs to look upscale, David. You're lucky we're doing this for free. Most HOAs would fine you for that eyesore of a house." Her voice dripped with condescension, as if I were a child who didn't understand the importance of her mission. I'd had enough. I dialed 911, my voice low but firm. "Hi, I need an officer at 23 Willow Creek. 2 women are trespassing and defacing my property." Karen's head whipped around, her eyes wide for the first time. Barb froze, her clipboard clattering to the ground. "You're calling the cops?" Karen sputtered, her face reddening. "Over a little paint? Grow up, David. A little paint." I gestured at the neon disaster covering half my house. "You're breaking the law, Karen. This is criminal trespass and vandalism. Did you think I'd just let you get away with it?" She laughed again, but it was forced, nervous. "The HOA has authority. You can't touch us." Barb nodded vigorously, but her eyes darted to the street, where a police cruiser was pulling up. Officer Ramirez stepped out, his expression unreadable. He was a local, known for being fair but no nonsense. He surveyed the scene. The pink paint, The rollers, the cans scattered on my lawn. What's going on here? He asked, his voice calm but edged with authority. I explained, showing him the video on my phone. Karen interrupted, her voice shrill. Officer, this man is non-compliant with HOA regulations. We're improving his property, and he's throwing a tantrum. Ramirez raised an eyebrow, unimpressed. Ma'am, did you have permission to paint this house? Karen faltered, then rallied. The HOA voted. Did you have the homeowner's consent? Ramirez cut in, his tone sharper now. Barb piped up, her voice trembling. We thought it was understood. The bylaws. Bylaws don't override property rights, Ramirez said, pulling out his notepad. Painting someone's house without permission is criminal trespass and vandalism under state law. You both need to step away from the house. Now. Karen's jaw dropped, her roller slipping from her hand and splattering pink on her muumuu. You can't be serious. We're the HOA. Ramirez didn't blink. I'm very serious. Turn around, hands behind your backs. The neighbors gasped as Ramirez cuffed Karen and Barb, their faces a mix of shock and humiliation. Karen's bravado crumbled, replaced by a stream of protests. This is outrageous. I'll sue. I'll have your badge. Barb, meanwhile, was sobbing, her clipboard abandoned in the grass. As Ramirez led them to the cruiser, Mrs. Nguyen called out. About time someone stood up to them. Jake clapped, his toddler giggling, unaware of the drama. I stood there, my anger fading into something heavier relief, but also sadness. Karen and Barb weren't evil, just drunk on their own power, blind to the harm they caused. The next week was a blur. The HOA was dissolved after a community vote, spurred by Karen's arrest. Turns out, their emergency paint job wasn't the first time they'd overstepped. They'd bullied Mrs. Nguyen into cutting down her beloved rose bushes, fined Jake for his kid's tricycle being too visible, and harassed half the neighborhood with petty citations. The paint came off my house with professional help, paid for by a community fundraiser. Karen and Barb faced charges of trespass, vandalism, and a hefty fine. They moved away shortly after, their reign of terror over. But the real victory wasn't the cuffs or the paint stripper. It was the neighborhood coming together. We started a new community council, one that listened instead of dictated. Mrs. Nguyen planted new roses. Jake's kid rode his tricycle freely. And I repainted my house beige, just to spite Karen's ghost. Sometimes, justice isn't just about punishment. It's about reclaiming what's yours and building something better from the wreckage. Karen and Barb thought they could control us, but they forgot one thing. A community united is stronger than any HOA tyrant. The end.